Thank you, Liam and Greta. Appreciate that. How you guys doing tonight? All right? You guys excited for Unplugged this weekend? This will be year, I think, number 18. And I was at the very first Unplugged. We had the Goop crew. We were Teal Team, and we were terrible. And we lost every single game except for kickball because I was cheating as the pitcher. I was throwing it as fast as I could at these kids, and I was spinning it, so they couldn't kick it at all. So they made some rules after that. We had an all-time pitcher after that. It wasn't me. But anyways, I'm excited to be with you guys this weekend. I encourage you guys to be praying, maybe even spend some time in fasting. You're taking some time, whether it's at a meal time, you're getting off social media, to just really humble yourself before God and surrender and ask Him to do something in your life. I'm praying that some of you experience God in a fresh way. Maybe you feel like you've been kind of dead, you've been away from God, you've been empty. And it's a really good time to get separate from your normal schedule, the culture that you're around, the friends that might pull you away from the Lord, and just really dive deep. We're going to do our annual prayer walk in the morning, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to try something a little bit different where you might have some more quiet time by, if you show up early, like I'm talking 7 o'clock early, you can go on your own prayer walk instead of with the big group. And I would love to do that. So it's going to be great. We're going to have the Beast Games again. And we did this last year, but we're going to do it again. We're going to have a special riddle in our journal that if you figure it out, you're going to figure out 4 numbers, you'll open up the lockbox. How many of you remember that? How many of you failed at that? I saw there was like a line of 30 people, and finally someone in the front got it. We had to make a rule that you had to try it and then go to the back of the line. But we're going to have $100 on the line. And if you open that box, there's going to be a key in the box. That key is going to open up another lockbox that is hidden. And it is disguised. You're not going to know it's a lockbox. And the catch is, if you keep the $100, you will not get any points for your team. But if you donate that money to missions, your team will get a bunch of points. So you're going to either be rich with $100, or you're going to be hated. We'll see how you do. But there's going to be a lot of Beast Games. You're going to pull a car. You're going to push a car, actually. Much easier. A bunch of stuff. All right? Have any of you noticed I haven't preached in a while? Any of you noticed that? Chris noticed that. Okay. It's because we have a really sharp team, and I'm very happy that we have people that come on the team preach. Liam, Kawan was preaching, Gabe, Jonah, a few of you, so really appreciate that. The last sermon that I did is on YouTube, and I think YouTube is actually censoring it. So it only has 4 views right now. Maybe it's because it's a bad message, I don't know. But I preached on sex and gender, so if you want to go look at that, chat tried to censor me, and YouTube's trying to censor me now. So please go view that to totally throw it in the face of YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I have never in my whole life preached on, ever. I've looked at my notes, and I cannot find, out of the 11 years of ministry, me ever preaching on this topic. And it's not because it's like an unimportant topic. It is actually top 10 in the Old Testament topics. It's in the 10 Commandments. It's a very key topic when it comes to life, because actually it says that if you follow this principle, then you'll have a better life and actually a longer life. We'll talk about what that means. But it's a very key topic in the Bible. And we're going to have 2 weeks on family, because every single one of us is in a certain type of family. And today we're going to talk about what it means to have a relationship from a parent to a kid and a kid to a parent. Now I want to start with this. How many of you have rules at home? You have a rule at home. Naomi, you don't got no rules. What's your rule at home? Get in there, woman, wash those dishes. You got no rules at home. You're married. Who's a child that has a rule at home? You have a rule at home. Okay, what is a rule that you want to shout out that you have at home? Maybe it's a normal rule, or maybe it's a crazy rule. Who wants to shout one out? Be home by 10. That was my curfew too, actually. Be home by 10. Take the trash out. Alien.
You can have your phone in the car.
Where do you put it? In the trunk? Oh, you can't be on it. Okay, good. Zoe, you said something?
Get all the dishes done before you go to sleep.
Get all the dishes done. What else?
You can't come in our room.
Yeah, okay, that's a rule. Anybody else?
No barking in the house.
Why was that rule made?
What?
Why was that rule made?
My little
He's
brother.
walking. Dang it, Eli, I told you, no barking in the house. Filipino, we eat dogs. We don't bark like dogs. If you know, you know. Okay, I gotta calm down. All right, I'm gonna calm down. Raise your hand if you've eaten dog before. Hey, the only two people who've eaten dog are the Filipinos in the room. Let's go. Good easy. Have you eaten dog? I'm gonna ask you. Jonathan, has he eaten dog? Okay, you haven't eaten dog. I'm sorry. That was chicken that your mom made. That wasn't dog.
That's on my,
All right. When I was younger, there was rules that I had to follow too. I don't really have rules in my house that are imposed on me. We more make them to make our home comfortable. But I had rules like you have to go to church on Sunday morning. I had to do it. My parents made me. I actually enjoyed it. We had a little church in Hawaii. It was like 50 people. And I used to hide in the kitchen to serve snacks to the little kids because I did not want to go to the Sunday serving. So I get it. When I see you walking in the hallway, you don't want to go in the big church. I get it. I didn't understand that rule, but I do now. Don't talk back. This was very enforced to the point where when I was an adult, when somebody disagreed with me, I wouldn't talk back at all because my mom taught me by many slaps that I wasn't supposed to talk back. You can't have a girlfriend until you graduate high school. Do you think I followed that rule?
no.
It took 3 to realize I needed to wait until I was ready. And I realized that, and I waited for the right godly woman, and then Emily came along during that waiting period, and it paid off. Good rule, Mom and Dad. Get my school done before I go over to my friend's house. This was a crazy one. No Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards in our house.
What?
Yeah. Crazy. Do you think I followed that rule? I did. I had it at my friend's house. I kept my Pokemon cards at my friend's house. So I'm not telling you this sermon because I was perfect at it. I was a child at one point, and I struggled with the rules that were imposed on me. I had a curfew of 10 o'clock, and we go after youth, and I had to, we got there at 9:30, and I had to rush to get my food or mooch off someone else's food and then get home by 10. These were kind of annoying rules that we had. And we have rules that we have for our kids, like don't go into the street, don't spend all your money on Legos, Israel. Say goodbye to everyone before you leave. Don't just walk out the door. Ask permission before you eat something someone gives you. We even have a rule that they don't understand, only candy on Fridays. We have certain rules that follow our priorities and our values. So, when I think of obeying your parents, I think of what do we obey? What is God saying to obey? And these would be the commands, the expectations, the rules of our parents. But my thought as I'm reading this is, why is this so important that in the Old Testament it says, if you curse your father and mother, you shall surely die? That's wild, isn't it? Why does it say things like, why does it say in the 10 Commandments, there's do not murder, do not steal, do not commit adultery? Alongside that is not even obey, it says honor your father and your mother. I think that's pretty wild that God put this commandment number 5 way up there with those other things. It's wild that God put such a value on the way that we treat our parents. It's interesting. So we're going to talk today about the importance of honoring and obeying our parents. And we're going to turn to Ephesians chapter 6. I want you to turn there. Ephesians 6, 1 through 4. Ephesians 6, 1 through 4. If you're there, say I'm there.
I'm there.
Don't lie to me. Be quick. Pastor Jason said that on Sunday, and literally a second later, someone said, I'm there, Pastor. I'm there. You lying, you're going to hell. Ephesians chapter 6, 1 through 4. And today I know that there's expectations on parents share here. I'm going to share those a little bit, but I'm going to focus more on the kids because there's only a few parents in this room. If I was in the big church, I would talk about the parents and I would get on them. But I'm going to get on you today because this is a really important commandment God gives us. So, Ephesians chapter 6, 1 through 4. It says, children, everybody say that's me. Children. If you came out of the womb, that's you. Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Why? Just because. It's right. That's what it says. Honor your father and mother. So it says obey first, and then it says honor. So they're two separate things, it seems. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with the promise. What does that mean? It's the first commandment with the promise. Well, in the Ten Commandments, it says to honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land God has given you. He's talking to the Israelites there. So it comes with the promise. If you do this, I will do this. You'll have a long life in this land. Verse 4. Fathers, do not provoke, or some versions say antagonize. Don't provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So number one, I think this is on your sheet. God gives children a command, and it is this, to honor and obey your parents. Think about this. Why is obedience so difficult? Why is it so hard? Just think about it. Why is it so hard when someone gives us an expectation that we don't... I guess, why do we not even like that expectation? Why is obedience so hard? Maybe it's the pride in each of us. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Doesn't want to be explained. Maybe we think that somebody's exploiting their power. Maybe it's an emotional thing where we wanted to stay out later and we're not able to, so it's emotional. But I like this saying right here. It says obedience is hard because all of us naturally want to do what we feel is best. Boiled down, we want to be our own authority. So that's the core issue I think that it brings up in us is when the Bible talks about submission, when it talks about obedience, the reason why it says submit is because there's something that doesn't want to be given. We wouldn't have to be told to obey if it was a natural response. Human beings want to disobey. We want to go against. We want to do what we want to do. We want to do what motivates us. I want to clarify the difference between honor and obedience. It's in your sheet there. Obedience is doing what is asked of you to do. You know, Liam said one of his chores is take out the trash. You know, he does that regardless of rolling his eyes, regardless of like dragging his feet maybe. He's still doing it. Obedience is doing what is asked. So the Bible says, obey your parents. Honor is showing value, respect, and weight. Or if you think of a different word, it might be showing value, respect, or distinction. Like I'm going to submit to you because you are an authority. Showing value, respect, and weight. And when I looked at this, I'm like, okay, why does it say both? And why does the Ten Commandments just say honor? I think it's because you can obey externally, but not honor internally. You can technically obey, but still be out of whack because you have not honored. So, to honor somebody means that you not only follow along with their expectations, but you also do it with a good attitude. Is that easy? No. Especially when I would walk in the door at 10:05 p.m. and my dad would give me grief about it. I'm like, I was home within 5 minutes. What more do you want from me? You know? To honor is a very difficult thing. Why does God care so much? Why does God care so much? We obeyed, but we didn't honor, but we just did it, right? And I was thinking about this. Why does God care so much that he would say, you know, this is punished? And it wasn't, so let me clarify. When it says those who curse their parents, you look that up, you might already know about that. They'll be deserving of death. It's not saying if you roll your eyes at them. It's saying that you're saying you want them dead. It's like you've threatened their life. It was a pretty grave sin, it was saying back then. But why does God care so much that we honor and obey our parents? And I think it's this, because learning to obey authority trains us to trust God's authority. Because if we can't honor, and I'm not talking, I know some of us have situations where our parents maybe are not living an honorable life. Maybe they're not living the way that God intends. They're not doing their part. That's difficult. But if we cannot trust authority that we can see or honor them, how can we trust God and honor his authority that we cannot see with our eyes? The way that we trust, honor, and obey the authority God has placed in our lives, whether it's a step parent, a foster parent, a grandparent in your life, being that figure, it's going to be really difficult for us to submit and trust God. This is why this command matters. Here's a question. What's one rule your parents have that frustrates you? What's one rule your parents have that frustrates you? And the second part about that is, could it be possible that there's wisdom behind it that you don't understand yet? I didn't understand why my parents said don't date until after I graduate. I didn't understand that until I messed it up 3 times. I didn't understand that. And when I figured it out when I was 17 years old, I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore because this is a waste of my time. I'm not making friends with people because I'm just spending time with this one person and we're hanging out. I'm mistreating people because they're not this person I'm focusing on. My brain's not developed, I'm not emotionally ready for this relationship. Why can't we just be friends? I didn't understand that until I messed it up 3 times. But could it be possible that there's wisdom behind what you're being told that you don't yet understand? Keikoa right now is trying to walk. He's at the point where we have to close the gate. And he loves crawling up to that gate. And he loves hanging on to it and loves shaking it. And if we leave that gate open, he loves to venture over and look down the stairs and wonder if he can make it down the stairs. He doesn't understand why we have the fence up. But we do. And someday he will. But he's really upset sometimes when we close the gate because he can't get down to where we're at. And sometimes we don't understand the wisdom behind a decision. So I'm wondering as I read this, what does that you may live long mean? What does it mean? It says, it's the commandment with a promise, so that you may, it may turn out well for you, that you may live long on the earth. Is this saying that it's like the secret to it's like the what do you call it, the well of life? We call it like this holy water or something. Is it like promising that if you obey your parents, if you're submissive, that you're going to live longer? Is that what it's saying? It's kind of what it says literally. But what could be the meaning behind that? Because if you think about it reasonably, there's people who have died who have been honorable to their parents. You know, I haven't seen like a correlation between old people and being really good to their parents necessarily. So there's a couple different options here. One option is it's just saying that Israel, the country, the people of Israel back then, because they were given commands, and these commands were to be passed down from their parents, if they disobeyed those commands, and we saw them do it over and over again, then their land would be taken from them. This happened over and over again because they disobeyed the Lord. It could be saying that, but then it's repeated in Ephesians 6, so it's not just talking to the Israelites there. Or it could mean that you literally will be given more years of your life. That is possible. It's like a supernatural blessing. I don't know. Kind of like tithing in a way. I don't know. But I think the more likely reason is this. It means obedience to God-given authority leads to a flourishing life. It leads to health. And you can disagree with that. That's fine. But I think that's maybe the most reasonable thing to agree on. Because if parents are doing a good job, think about this. They're teaching you to be wise. They're teaching you to have humility, to have wisdom, to have self-control, to not stay out at all hours of the night where you could get in trouble or get involved in stuff that only happens at night when nobody's around. Your life might just be better if you submit to authority. Usually. And there's some authority figures who are not good. But what it's teaching us is when people reject authority, it leads to destruction. It just does. Being the dad of 4 young kids, I would say maybe our #1 job right now is to keep our kids alive. If I'm honest. It's like make sure you have locks on the cabinet so they don't drink poison and they don't get pills. Kira today stuffed pancakes up her nose. And we thought we had it out, but she kept crying and pointing at her nose. So then I took a sinus rinse and put saline in it, and she didn't know what was coming. And I squirted it up her nose, and she was livid. And she was screaming, and she was choking. And I had to do it 2 more times, and look at that, a little piece of pancake came out. So new rule, no pancakes in noses. No petting every dog. You can't pet every dog that walks past our property, Isla. You know, you don't know if that dog's gonna bite you. And there's rules they don't understand, like brushing your teeth. Isla has 9 cavities. Brush your teeth. floss your teeth. And if you think about it, this verse is true because much of the reason why you're alive today is because someone taught you not to go into the street. Someone taught you not to steal. Someone taught you to do all these things, if you think about it, right? So I think this verse is true. There was an adult or two to keep you alive. And that's the honest truth. Is if you obey your parents, usually, especially at a young age, you will have a longer life. And rebellion often has real life consequences. I hear stories of, and this was this year, I don't know if you heard this story. I know maybe some of you people might know these people, but there were some teenage boys who held an Uber driver at gunpoint this year. You hear about that? And they ended up shooting him. These boys are going to be in jail probably for most of their life. It's sad. And whenever I hear that, I wonder, where in the world are their parents? You know what the sad thing is? Usually a parent is missing. There's a father missing. There's a mother who's working 2 jobs. And when parents are not doing their jobs, children suffer. And this is why God cares so much, and He puts in the 10 Commandments, is because when families are healthy, when parents are doing their job, when kids are doing their job, these things don't happen. Often, at least. Many of the issues we see today are either the lack of parents, especially fathers, which fathers leave their families far too much, or people just disregarding their parents. And God gives us authority not to challenge our lives, not to make it worse, but to preserve our lives until we're ready. Here's a question. What if the people who are in your home are not actually your parents? What if that person is a step-parent, foster parent, adoptive parent, mom's boyfriend, grandma, grandpa? Here's something interesting as I was looking into this is, if you have a person in your life who is in that position of authority and you're dependent on them for guidance, they are in that position of authority. I would say maybe your mom's boyfriend is not in that position of authority. They got to get married first. But there are figures in your life who are not your blood parents, who you are dependent on. They're going to bless you, hopefully. They're going to encourage you. And then your role in that is to submit and honor them. All right, we talked a little bit about the child's role a little bit, but I want to talk about the parents. Somebody say, my parents.
My parents.
Okay. And some of you are going to wish your parents were sitting in this room. And you're going to send this message to them and say, skip to 15 minutes. And point number 3, I want to show you something. And you're going to stare at them. And then you're going to walk away and let them play it. And then you're going to get spanked or smacked or something. My mom would be like, and get her glasses right and hold it up. And then she wouldn't make any comments about it. She wouldn't do anything. Number 3, God gives parents a command too. That's encouraging to me, because parents don't just get to do whatever the heck they want. God has expectation of parents too. Colossians 3:20-21 ups the ante on children and also reminds us of the parents' role. It says, children, obey your parents in everything. Everything. That's crazy. Everything. For this is pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, do not antagonize, provoke to anger, like it said in Ephesians, your children, so that they will not become discouraged. Discouragement is a very interesting word there. This is an NASB. It's not just saying don't make them upset. It's saying don't provoke them to the point where they become discouraged. What does it mean to provoke or antagonize kids? This is for you, future parents. This is for you to pray for your parents, because you're probably not going to walk in the room and be like, hey, Dad, you've been antagonizing me lately, and you gotta stop. He's gonna be like, guess what, buddy? You can move out. All right, so here's a couple things. We're gonna put them on the screen. Here's some examples of what this means. Constant criticism. Why can't you never just constantly criticizing him? 2, hypocrisy. I think this is really easy to spot for a kid because, we see everything. And so sometimes adults are just struggling. It's not like necessarily hypocrisy. It's just they have problems too, But parents who say things and then they don't do it. Or they put on a face at church and at home they're a nightmare. 3, Anger-led discipline. They have correction, but they don't want to have any compassion or love. Anger-led discipline. Or 4, impossible expectations. They just expect you to be perfect. They have such a high bar that you continually are trying to please them. This is what it means to provoke your children. Have you ever felt discouraged because of the way you've been treated by your parents? Have you ever felt like you don't have a relationship with your parents that is anything resembling of what you see in the Bible, of loving, of patient, of kindness, of goodness, of faithfulness, of gentleness, of self-control? This is the reality. Some of us have experienced that. I've never heard my mom say, "I love you." The only time I ever heard her say that, maybe correct that, is when she threw something at me because she was upset with me, and my dad made her apologize. I still love my mom. She's a woman of God. She just didn't know how to do that. And we need to pray for our parents so they can model Jesus. It's very hard to hold our parents accountable, but the church and the community around you, at times, can step in and do that. And, thankfully, if it gets real serious, God has placed civil authority, policemen, other people to make sure that they can at least do simple things and take care of you and not abuse you. And we need to pray for people without parents and pray for those who have parents who are not following the way God has designed them to do it. Parents are called to train, to teach, to correct, and model Jesus, not to control, to crush, to embarrass you. They're to build you. And that's what I want you to become as a parent someday. What if your parents aren't easy to honor? Okay? I don't want you to raise your hand, but some of you might have a parent that's really difficult to honor. And I have a really difficult truth to tell you. You might not be able to fix that. You might not be able to do it. I know I don't know your home situation. Some of you I do. I know it maybe more than you think. Some of you have amazing parents. Some of you have foster parents. That parents maybe have an absent parent. They're not around. Some of you have parents who don't follow Jesus. Honoring does not mean that you approve of their sin. It just means that you have a good attitude. If parents ask you to disobey God, what do you do? Let me ask you that. If a parent asks you to do something that is sinful, should you follow them or should you not? Don't? Anybody think that we should? Okay? They might be able to convince you to, but Acts 5:29, Peter says, when he's commanded to do something by his authority that's not godly, he says we must obey God rather than men. And you can do this, I know this is going to be difficult, but you can do this respectfully. Just like you can disobey civil authority respectfully. Sometimes honoring them is setting respectful boundaries if they're asking you to sin. If they're not, the bad news for you as a teenager is it says in all things to honor them, to obey them. Number 5, and I'm coming to a close here. Simple message today, difficult one. Number 5 is the family matters so much to God. Why does it matter to God? I've told you a few reasons. But because the home was meant to be a place where faith is passed down. It is not my primary job. It's not the kids' church's primary job. It's not your small group leader's primary job. It is your home. That's why God cares so much about family, because that's where faith is passed down. And when it isn't, when faith is not passed down in the home, people walk away. I want to show you an illustration here. There's a picture of an arrow that we're going to put up. I don't know who that is, unfortunately. I found it online. But this, I thought it was fitting because this girl is holding an arrow. In the Bible, if you didn't know this, it says that children are like arrows. So if you can imagine, this girl holding the arrow is a representation of you, of me when I was a child. In Psalm 127, it describes children like arrows in the hand of a warrior. And I know children a lot of times are talked about as like burdens or nuisances, or we don't have enough money to have more kids. But the Bible says that children are like arrows in the hand of a warrior. And those who are blessed, they fill their quiver with them. I think a quiver is like 7 or 8, I think is the number. But anyways, so we're at 4 right now. We need a few more for a full. Yeah. All right, anyways. But I want to show you this picture because as a parent, their job is to release arrows. They're not called to just collect them. They're called to launch them. And the whole goal of your family, and hopefully the expectations and rules that you were given, someday you'll realize that they are supposed to train you. They're supposed to train you to be able to soar, to be able to cut through, to be able to pierce, to be intelligent, to be able to understand your confidence and your worth comes from the Lord. That is the design. It says, when he speaks with his enemies in the gate, he will not be put to shame. When he's standing at the gate, he can talk proudly of his kids. Parents, their job is to prepare you. It's not to control you forever. So that one day you can stand on your own with Christ. So I have a few questions today. I know it's a simple message tonight from Ephesians 6. A couple questions here. Where have I been resisting authority in my life? Where have I been resisting authority in my life? 2, have I confused my frustration with maybe the expectations put on you? Have I confused my frustration with injustice? This means that maybe you don't like what's going on, but it's not necessarily unjust. Have I confused this and maybe have painted a bad picture? And number 3 is a simple one. What would honoring my parents look like this week? What would honoring my parents look like this week? Remember, it's not just saying I obey, but it's how do I have a loving, honoring attitude towards them? Might be obeying the first time, changing your tone, saying thank you, apologizing. If you can think of how many diapers have we changed, for our kids? These people have changed your diapers, some of them. They've changed thousands of them. Have you thanked them for any of those diapers? Maybe you have. Maybe apologize, initiate a helpful act, step in, encourage them. And I want to point you to this too. Jesus was fully God, and he perfectly honored his Father, even to the cross. And through him we can learn to honor, to forgive, and to grow. Jesus even set this example. So I want us to think about those things. During this abide time, I'm going to pray. We're going to go into this abide time through Ephesians chapter 6. During this time, I don't think I set this really straight in the past, but this is also a time where you can go to a leader and ask them to pray for you. All right, I don't want this just to be a moment. I know this message is maybe not to come to the altar and cry your eyes out kind of thing. It might be, I don't know. But I want this moving forward, that during this abide time, you can respond to the Lord in prayer. You can ask a leader to pray for you, or you can dig into Scripture and look for something if you didn't get anything so far. So let me pray, and then we're going to go into the abide time. Father, I pray that you show us what it means, not only to honor our parents right now, but would you raise up students in here to be good parents? God, we've had some good examples, and we've had some really bad examples. And so I just pray, Lord, that you would teach us what it means to honor you by obeying and honoring our parents, Lord. Would you teach us, God, what it means to be a parent someday? Would you teach us so we're prepared for that moment and we can change our family tree? God, I'm thinking about some students in this room who I know have difficult home situations, and I just pray that although they can't change the situation, God, that they can change their family tree. I pray that you'd prepare them for that. Mold them, give them wisdom and discernment, Lord. In Jesus' name.